As you can see, I'm going to show you guys some more of the process and stuff. But this video, just for you guys to join, for those who are available. Some of you may be at church today, some may be cooking, washing, preparing for the new week ahead. So what we're going to be doing is simply printing, cutting, and pressing this design onto some t-shirts. So basically you can see the design right here, All Stars. It may look kind of backwards. Now I'm going to flip the camera and show you guys my quick setup. Nothing too fancy or so. Just give me a second, and we're going to get ourselves started all together. So let me show you guys what's going on here. Hopefully you guys can hear me and everything. I'm going to do a quick sound check just to make sure that everything is working perfectly and great. Trust me guys, it is a nice sunny day. All right, so let's see what's happening there. So let me show you guys a quick setup. Again, this is not our normal or standard video that we will do during the course of the week. I just decided that I have a lot of shirts to do today, and why not bring you guys on the journey with me? Some of you may watch it today, some of you may watch it later on during the week, whenever the case may be. But here we go. I'm gonna take this out the stand. I'm gonna move around a bit. So just using my Mac today, going through the print and cut process here, as you can see, All Stars. And I have my cutting mat. My cutting mat clearly went through World War X, but it's still working, it's still sticky. I have my Silhouette Cameo 4. I just love, love, love this Cameo. And then I have my heat press here, my HPN signature heat press for Heat Press Nation. I'm actually going to turn that on, let that start booting up. And I'm going to probably put everything down in the description for you guys. And that is my quick setup. As I'm going through the print and cut process, I'm probably going to shift around things so you can have easy access to the heat press when it comes time for printing. But yeah, just decided to get you guys to join me on this journey today. And I'm going to start off by showing you guys the print and cut process, because I know some persons are still having issues with that. So I'm going to take you right over here to my Cameo. This is the first stop I'm going to make here right now to show you guys. And here we go. So when we're using the Silhouette Studio program, once you select your feature to do the print and cut, you can set the insets, meaning you can set these margins to be a little broader or a little narrow. In this case, I set mine as wide as possible. And what I'm going to do now is to basically line up my artwork onto my mat. So I'm using the wall as a little stability for me. And I always make sure that the corners line up with the corner of the mat. I'm also using this TransAura Dream True Heat Transfer paper. I tried this sometime before and it seems to be working pretty well. So I'm just going to give myself that opportunity to go and try it again. So as you can see here, simply, just nice and easy. I'm going to bring that in a bit closer so you can see, nice. And the one thing I'll say is that it doesn't matter how bad your cutting mat looks. You can always scrub it, clean it, and you can use Eco Mist adhesive spray to put back that tacky and that stickiness onto your cutting mat. Another thing or that a lot of persons always have, or problems persons have when it comes to the Silhouette Cameo, when it comes to print and cutting, is more so of, you hear those questions. I try cutting my designs, but it's not working. The Cameo machine will not allow me to, will not pick up my registration marks, because these registration marks are very important. Now, in previous videos I would have done probably like a couple years ago, I would have explained this process over and over, but I can do it here again. And one of the other things I'll also say too, which is I think is a myth, some may not agree. Back then, persons would have said, you have to spot a light down into the eye of the Cameo in order to get the machine to pick up your registration marks. And for me, I find that not to be true, because I've done videos on testing print and cut at night and also during the course of the day. So quickly, let me just remove my mat and let me show you exactly what is happening here. So you can see these two marks here on the Cameo. This is technically my guide, all right? And I'm going to take my mat and I'm going to make sure that, is just resting right there. I want to make sure it rests right next to that guide, or sometimes on top of it. So let me just move this away so you guys can see. And once my mat is right in there, I'm going to load it. Great. Now, all you need to do is go over to your computer, and I'm going to bring my laptop here. And as you can see, the settings right here, I'm using printable vinyl, and I'm using a force of 6, speed of 5, and a blade of 3. Now, let's see if it's going to work or not. So I'm going to hit send. It's looking for the registration marks. Okay, so you see, it did not pick up my registration marks. You notice that. How do I know it did not pick up my registration marks? Because it stopped. Now, a lot of persons face this challenge and this problem, and I purposely did it this way so you guys can actually see for yourself. The question really is, how do one rectify this situation? And one method that has been working for me personally with this, make sure that your Cameo is up to date in terms of firmware, in terms of your software, everything. Make sure that you have everything set up properly with your margins and your insets and your registration marks. But one of the greatest things that work for me is just simply lifting the mat off of the table. So instead of having it flat, I normally would just elevate that mat a bit higher, and it works majority of the time. I can show you I have just here over 30 designs that I cut this morning, and I'm now doing another 10, because in total I'm going to be doing 40 shirts. Once again, as I tell you guys, I'm just bringing you along for the journey. When you are ready and you get bored, you can feel free to drop out. Feel free to ask questions if you want. I'll answer them. They don't have to be on the topic of um, what I'm doing right now. But yeah, so back here. So we noticed that our registration marks would have failed. Our Cameo did not follow through on how it's supposed to. Let me go back to my laptop here. As you can see here, it says fail to detect registration marks. To retry, automatically click register. Now for me, I don't ever click register. What I will do is close that setting. I'm going to rest my mat here on the table, and I'm going to just bring back my camera so you guys can see that there's nothing extra fancy that I'm doing. And here I go. So I'm just simply going to elevate my cutting mat like that, and I'm going to hit send, and let's see if it works or not. There you go. I did nothing different. All I just did was elevate my mat a little bit, and it's going to pick up those registration marks, and it's going to cut design. Now you may be asking, and my heat press now is fully at the temperature and ready to go. Now the Cameo tends to make quite a few noise or a lot of noise. But as I was saying, guys, the question is, will this design actually cut out properly since I had registration failures from the start? There's only one way to find out. Let's actually take a look and see what will happen. All right, so I have my reading tool here. I'm just going to be adjusting the camera, and you're going to get a lot of this adjusting of camera as I go through this process because we're live and we're not doing that standard video. So I'm just going to peel up my paper, that extra paper right now. And some of you may be looking, who may be watching this live or watching it back, may ask, why didn't you remove the mat before you start to peel up the design? Well, let me tell you why. For me personally, I like to always make sure that when I'm pulling up or taking off that excess paper or material, that the machine actually was able to cut through that material. In a case where the blade or the machine did not cut through the material, instead of ripping up the entire design and messing it up, what I would do is to send the job again to the machine, allowing the machine to cut that design or those lines again. So that is my reason, my personal reason. Others may do it differently, but this has worked for me for a while. Plus, I really don't have any fears about the machine or the blade not cutting through my material, and I don't have that fear because I actually have a new blade in. When you're having an old blade, trust me, it tends to be a bit more difficult when it comes to cutting through. All right, so you've seen me done this one, and feel free to ask any questions. There we go, Bel Air All Stars. We're going to be putting that on some shirts shortly, along with the others. So feel free to ask any questions if you have any. Once again, I'm going to be readjusting um, the camera as I go through this entire process, and just keeping you guys there for me. So you can leave a comment down in the chat. Let me know which country you guys are watching from. You know what you guys are doing today on this lovely Sunday. Here in my country right now is pretty overcast, and I do believe the rain is going to fall in a couple of minutes. Actually, it's starting to fall now. So I hope that as that rain starts to fall, that you guys can still hear me as I go through this process. So once again, I'm just elevating my hand with the mat so you can pick up the registration marks, and I let it go, and then it do the job on its own. Now while that's cutting, I actually have to print 5 more designs. So I'll take the opportunity to print 5 more of those designs along with the registration marks, because we want to keep the process going faster and faster. And now we have that lovely, lovely rain falling. Nice. And I'm going to show you guys, something out shortly. Well, actually, right now, I have this. This is called a roller. You know, you don't always need this, but I like it. And the reason why I like it is because when you put your material down onto your mat, you can give it a nice roll to keep it, make sure that it sticks down to your mat completely. You don't have to do it rough or hard, just a light pass over your material. As you can see in this case, I actually simply just remove my mat and I peel up my design. And then we go to another one. We go through this process. Now, when I'm finished here with these other 10, cutting these other 10 designs, I now have to press all 4 shirts. Probably not going to stay on the live for the full thing, but just probably for some of it. And the thing about it is once you do one and you have that confidence, you just start going through the process and going faster and faster and faster and faster. So we have more designs being printed. Right, so we are on a roll, guys. We are on a roll. In one of my last videos I showed the process of sublimating onto colored polyester, 100% polyester t-shirts. I know that some persons have been asking for a recap in terms of the polygloss videos. I did some polygloss videos a while back. And for those who don't know what polygloss is, in a case where you would have messed up a tumbler or you went to a dollar store or a $3 store and you purchased a cup and you're interested in putting a design onto that cup, we know that that mug, that cup, that tumbler, whatever item it is, it should be a sublimation product. And if it's not a sublimation product, then it's going to be very hard for you to actually sublimate onto it. But with polygloss, and I believe I should have that link down in my description, but with polygloss, you can actually coat the outside of that item and then you can sublimate onto it. But I know some persons are having problems with bubbles and streaks and lines and stuff. So I'm probably going to do a recap or refresh video on that whole process for you guys to see what is going on. Come on, let's go. So once again, guys, this is the process I use for the print and cut. Now, I must tell you, there are faster ways to do this. However, for me personally, I use the process and I use the machinery and I use what I have. For some persons, you probably will go to DTF, which is pretty quick and faster. You know, I don't have those type of machines, so for me, I use what I have until I can upgrade. So yeah, you can probably get the same result. Sometimes the qualities can differ, if you get what I'm saying, but my advice is to use what you have until you can do better. All right, so we have one, two, three, four, about 5 sheets left to cut. our design. Let's start getting some shirts in here. I have a whole set of shirts that I'm going to start working on. And this is what we are working with here. These are nice, dry fit, boxing, 100% polyester. Just going to simply put that over my heat press. We have this one finished. So sometimes, the question is, how do you go faster when you have your Cameo machine working, your printer working, and the heat press working? You just have to find your own method and your own style. And for me, what I personally do is I tend to focus on printing and cutting out all of my designs first. Now, if there's a case where the cutting of a design is more sophisticated, for example, this design that I'm doing right now is technically a star. This is simple. So within a matter of 5 seconds, the machine will cut the entire um, design. However, let's say it was something more sophisticated, somebody's face, a character of a car, something more sophisticated. Then it gives you a little bit more time because the machine will take a bit longer to cut the design. And if it's one thing that you don't want to do is to speed up the cutting process so fast to the point where the machine eats up your material. Many times in the past when it first started, you want it to finish quickly and you up your speed by too much. Sometimes the machine is able to handle it, sometimes the machine is not able to handle it. And if you go too fast, you can end up cutting areas, or the machine can end up cutting areas that you did not want it to cut because it's going too fast. Then sometimes if your mat is not sticky enough and doesn't have enough adhesive on it, the machine could then, because it's going so fast, the machine can actually, or the blade can actually rip the material from off of your mat. So set a nice space. For me right now, I'm using a speed of 5, a force of 6, and a blade depth of 3. That is what I'm using here. And this is working for me pretty okay. Once again, for those persons who have the DTF and the newer, for instance, the Roland, etc., you can probably do all this here faster. But for me, gotta work with what I have until that day comes when I can upgrade to something much bigger. But you know what bigger means? Bigger means more expenses, more maintenance. So in a case where this design will finish in about 5 seconds, then something is hard for me to run over to the heat press and try to do a shirt. It's not hard, but I want to keep things working faster and faster all the time. So like right now, while that's picking up registration marks, I can head over to the heat press to actually take a look at pressing the shirt. But they only have 3 more to go. So we're going to work with that. I'm going to get my ruler, my tools. And for those beginner persons out there, I'm going to show you this. For those beginners out there, you can actually use this. This is actually a ruler. I'm going to wait until the machine is finished so you guys can hear before all the noise in the background. But yeah, so this is a ruler. And this ruler technically goes on the front of your shirt and will give you a range of where your design can be printed. So for example, if you want to put a right logo, you will put this onto the shirt and you can line up your logo with that side. Same thing for the left. And you can put your design in the center of the shirt. So it gives you a guide with where to put your shirt, your designs, etc. And I'm going to use it and show you guys how it actually works shortly. We just have about 3 more to go. So I'm just going to take that completely off quickly. I'm going to take that off so I can get another one going. And I know you guys may be looking and saying, whoa, each one is coming out pretty good. But when you first start, you mess up a lot. And even though after a couple years or many years of doing this, sometimes you still mess up designs. And if you notice that, there's some black left on the paper, there's a reason for that. When the machine stops again, I'll tell you guys exactly why you have a black border or offset on the outside. All right, so I have a black border on the outside of the design. Let me bring this a bit closer. So you can see a black border on the outside. Now the truth is this design, the true colors are, the true outside color I should say would be that gold, or if you want to call it mustard. So what I would normally do when I am printing and cutting, you have that feature with inside the settings where you can allow bleeding to be done. So you can leave some bleeding around the edges of your design, which would allow you to, it kind of spreads the ink a bit further so that when you cut, you cut on the exact line. For me, I'm not a fan of using that feature all the time. So instead of that, what I would do is just create an offset. And an offset, for those who don't know, it simply means a border around your design. So once you create that border around your design, you can set your machine to cut between the border and the original line for you. So any access or excess that's left off will not be for the design itself, but would be just that offset there. Hopefully I'm making sense. They sound a bit technical, but it's not as technical as you think it is. You may ask the question, so why you put it black and not the same mustard color? Well, that's a very good question. I could have put it mustard also, but I choose to keep it black for the reasons of the shirt. It can work with black, it can work with the mustard color, but I prefer black because black then still gives a nice outline. All right, so we're on to the second last design. And sometimes it gets very tricky. When they say you're coming down to the end of the finish line, all sorts of things tend to happen. With only 2 more left. All right, so I promised to use my roller and I did not use it. So with our last design, I'm going to use it. Then we're going to head over to my heat press. We're going to get started on some shirts. And I'm probably going to rearrange my setup so you guys can see what's going on better. All right. The thing about it, guys, is that sometimes the Silhouette Studio and the program would give you a clean cut, and then sometimes it don't. All right, so our last design, I hope I did count 40. If not, as I go through the process, I'll just have to print and cut some more. Matter of fact, I'll just count them before I turn off my machine. Once I turn off my machine, I put it aside to cool down, and then I go right into strictly pressing. And yes, the heat press is pretty hot. All right, so a little bit off. Let me see. Want to make sure I get it perfectly on those lines. Once I'm satisfied, now I talk about my roller. And what I'm going to do with this is just gently rub it across there. I mean, I could have used my hands too, like what I was doing from before, or you can use a roller. Make sure everything's in place. I'm gonna come here, line up, load it, and as I mentioned to you, it may seem very strange, but you know, all the time I have been doing print and cut, once I raise or elevate this mat and I hit send, I tend to get great results. There are one or two times when sometimes it still do not pick up the registration marks, but 99.9% whenever I elevate my cutting mat, my registration marks on the machine always pick up the registration marks. Yeah. All right, guys. So we're looking good so far, and it's time for me to actually start the counting. I do apologize for all the noise of my machine, but hey, it's doing the job right. That's what's the main focus, is doing the job. All right, good. All right. Let's see. All right, so we're good to go now. I'm going to turn off my machine. I'm going to plug it out. And I'm just going to move this completely out of the way. My area is pretty small, so I want to be able to maximize my space when I'm doing my work. So just going to rest this machine out of the way. Now we have a nice clear table, as you can see there. Nice clear table. Oops. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to start counting these designs just to make sure that I have enough. Uh-huh. All right, so we have exactly 40. Perfect, good. Now it's time for phase two to get to the pressing. I'm going to rearrange this area quickly. I have my heat press right here, but I really want to use my heat press in the corner. So if that being said, I am going to just quickly shift around my station. And what I can tell you is, oops, what I can tell you is I have this nice table here, this nice, lovely table from Heat Press Nation. If you guys are interested, for those who are in the industry, you can let me know and I can send you the link. This table is wonderful. And when I say wonderful, I mean wonderful. With this table, I can actually just put my heat press on it and I can move it around whenever I want because it has wheels. So it's so much easier. Like this with this table here now, the advantage is that you can fold in the table and stuff and move it, but it doesn't have wheels. So you have to lift this table and move it around. Whereas with my heat press, let me make sure I turn back on my heat press. Let's get it all back at the temperature. Is now back up to 274 Fahrenheit. With my heat press, I can just roll it just like that. And then when I finish roll it, I can just lock the wheels in place. Then I'm going to bring my table back into place. So when it comes to my setup changes a lot because sometimes I use one space, then sometimes I use a different space. It depends on how things are going for me during that day. All right, so they should be able to see that clearly. Let me just make sure that everything is set up properly. Or I can actually elevate this. Adjust it there again. Yeah. Want to make sure you guys have enough room to see what's going on. All right. Let's get to the shirts. So I have quite a few number of shirts there to do. Small, medium, large, extra large. At some point when I'm finished, I'm going to have to reorganize them, but hey, I'm going to work with what I have at the moment. And I have all of my designs here, as you can see. Nice. I rest it there on the table. If I wanted, I could turn the table the next way because I like to just pull the shirt from one area So let's start from the left and go to the right. So I pull my shirt from here, put it onto my heat press. The thing with the dry fit, you don't have to do that much pre-pressing. Some persons like to pre-press every single shirt, and there's nothing wrong with that because you want to get out the wrinkle, the moisture. But just adjust the camera again. There's nothing wrong with that. But with the dry fit shirts, you don't really carry that much wrinkles in it. But we can still pull down. I have to set my pressure. Perfect. And I have some paper, protective paper here, which you can put over my designs. But then again, this is the reason why I purchased these covers here from Heat Press Nation. Now with these covers, these actually work as like Teflon sheets. So it saves me that time from having to every minute put that over the design, take it off, put it over, take it off. These here, they do the job wonderful. Now, before I can even go ahead and put this onto the shirt, I first have to go ahead and remove it from the back of the paper. So this in itself could also be another process. And why? As easy as it looks, you could end up tearing the design if you don't take your time. So you still have to go through another process. So you can see some persons are saying, damn, you gotta do that for 40 something shirts? Yep, yep. It's all about dedication, perseverance, commitment, and whatever machinery you have, you're going to work with it until you can upgrade and do better. But what I find that works for me well is when I cut out my designs, like for this first shirt, it's here right now. When I'm finished pressing this first shirt, I'm going to take my design and I'm going to rest it on the bottom of my heat press. The heat that is coming from the bottom of the heat press is technically going to wake up this design. And when I say wake up this design, what it means is that when I go to peel it off, like what I'm doing here now is not going to be so hard or so difficult. Why? Because heat would have already been going into it and it makes it much easier. So these are just some little um, strategies and things that I use, I found that works for me best. And I take my time and do what I need to do because you still want to produce proper and quality work for all of your customers. Sometimes you want to rush and go through it, but then you find when you rush, you make a lot of mistakes. Sometimes what I also do is before I even get to the heat press, I would sit down and just weed out or peel out everything first. So that it's just a process of pressing. All right. So for this first couple of shirts, I'm going to use the ruler, as it was mentioning earlier. So I have this ruler here. I'm going to do a slight adjustment there again. Yes. So I'm going to use this ruler. And some people will tell you, that you can actually put your shirt the next way around. They say to you, all professionals don't put their shirt with the color up this way, but all professionals actually have their shirts like this, and then they measure from there. To be honest with you, I really don't believe that. I believe that whatever works for you best, use. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so we have our shirt. We'll use our ruler here. You put around the color of the shirt, and you can clearly see that my design is going to sit right here. Now, it's technically four fingers. So if I do four fingers here, it's going to give me the same thing. right? But as a new person in the industry, or even a person who have been in the industry for a long time and never even knew, it's just about 4 inches away from the net or the color. That's something for you there. You take your ruler here and do it 3 to 4 inches, you'll get the same type of measurements. I'll bring my design, I'll bring it there, I'll line it up properly, make sure that it's good. Most of all, you want to make sure you find the center of the shirt. Good. And I'm comfortable with this here. Once I'm comfortable, I'm going to gently pull the shirt off of the heat press a little bit so that the color will not be onto the heat press plate. Then I'm going to slide it in, and then I'm going to press it. Within 20 seconds, this will be perfect. And the great thing about my heat press is an auto opener. Let's see how that first design came out. You can see the smoke, and there we go. Take a look at that. Nice, easy, sweet, beautiful. Material is soft and nice and is in there. Now, for me personally, I like to give it a second press to make sure that it actually is in there. My temperature is good. It's a 318. I've set it to 320, but as you press, it will fluctuate. But right now, my my pressure was a little bit too light. I could feel it. So what I will do is increase my pressure a bit, and by increasing the pressure, it will help me not to have to press it 2 times or 3 times. You don't really have to go that much, but I like to do the second time for safety. But once I increase my pressure on the heat press, then the constant second pressing of the shirt will disappear. All right, here we go. Right, first shirt there. All right, so as I just mentioned to you, if the bottom of the heat press hot, I'm going to rest that on there. Then I'm just going to gently start reading up that design. And because the bottom of the heat press is pretty hot, it's going to wake up that material. It's begging me to pull it off. I can feel it. All right. And to me, it comes off much faster. Now with this material, this is like the third time I'm using this material. It's pretty nice and cool, but I'm accustomed to normally using the DTV Caesar. It's pretty nice. It's really, really nice. I do have some there that I could have used, but I decided to use this type here for these shirts. Again, look, that is design number 2 finish. I'll probably just do a couple more just so that I could speed up the process a bit. All right, so here we go. As I mentioned to you, because the bottom of the heat press is fairly still hot, the design is coming off really fast and easy, different from the first one. And I'm making sure that I take my time too with how I am pulling off the design. It may seem like I'm going fast, but I'm actually taking my time. And the reason for that is because I don't want to rip the design. This material is very, very soft, very soft. So anything too hard, you can end up ripping or tearing the entire design. And if that happens, you know what that means. We got to set back up the cameo. We got to go again. It happens though. It happens. Happens to the best of us. Now I know for those who would have had the DTF and stuff, or some persons will say, "Mike, you could have purchased, you know, could have purchased some DTF designs one time, and just do it." Yeah, it's true, but I'd rather take my time and go through this process. It's a nice Sunday. Probably should be afternoon by now. Outside it's overcast and still hot. As you can see, I'm in front the heat press, and I like to gauge myself. So honestly, within a matter of, I would say, 2 hours, I should be completed. 2 hours or less. And the reason for that is, of course, I have to still weed out or pull apart all of these designs. So that's going to take a while. But once I start to press the shirts, it's going to go pretty fast. The pressing of shirts go really, really quickly. Once you know what you're doing, everything will fall into place exactly how it's supposed to. Now, if this was a DTV, this would have been coming off way faster and way easier. But with this type of material, again, it's pretty soft. And who knows, you may be able to see me tearing one of them here, not intentionally, but it happens. All right, so let's do some shirts. All right. So once again, I'm just going to use that ruler for the first couple. Get my design. I'm going to put it in the middle of the shirt. Right. Once I'm comfortable with it, and once you are comfortable with it, you know what comes next. Still feel that my pressure is a little bit too low. Now this is where I start to excel. Once that heat press is done and pressing, I start to read more. You don't want to waste time, so you want to speed up the process. So for every time the heat press goes down, I'm going to try to read more designs. Okay, looks pretty okay. Another test you can also do with your shirts before you actually put it off the heat press completely is this. You just pressed it, and before you take it off and throw it aside, you stretch it out. You stretch out the design to make sure that it doesn't come up, to make sure it's down there stable. And if it seems to be moving a bit, then you give it another press. So all this is in the process of doing a shirt. You want to be careful, you want to be smooth with it, you want to take your time. All right. So 2 shirts done. Let's keep the process going. I'm going to make sure that this is good. I'm going to take my design. Now, when you become a professional or when you are accustomed to doing these shirts, you wouldn't need that ruler with you. Right? Because just from the naked eye, you will eventually know where the design is supposed to go. 4 fingers, just correct. All that's doing. Let's start reading some more designs. And the rain is coming down again, guys. And now we're just going into overdrive now. We're just going to start really pushing the limit now of the heat press. And that is one thing I love about this heat press. They have that bottom drawer that it can slide open, bottom plate that slides open, and it's an auto opener. So you set it to the correct temperature and time, and then you hear that beeping, and it automatically opens by itself. So as I'm setting my pressure much heavier each time, because what I do for myself first is to get the feeling of the first couple shirts, look at them, see the temperature that I'm using, see the pressure that I'm using, see if I could adjust it or adjust it by releasing or putting more pressure. Once everything is okay, then it fast forward the process much faster. So every time I press a shirt, I'm reading one at the same time, a design at the same time. I have quite a few already weeded out, but we still have a lot more to go. If you know somebody who's interested in this type of work, share this video with them. Have a family friend, a loved one who never seen how their shirts get do. Funeral shirts is a big thing now. You know, birthday shirts, couple shirts. Send this video to someone. They probably will not watch the entire thing, which is okay, but they'll be able to see how some of the printers print designs onto their shirts. Now I'll tell you guys this. This shirt is a wonderful shirt. This shirt is 100% polyester. And the thing about it is that if this shirt was a white shirt or a light color shirt, all of this would have been finished ever since. Why? I would have went ahead and used the sublimation process. So for that one, just want to give it another hit. Rain is pouring. All right. How many shirts have we done so far? For those who are watching, were you counting? I wasn't counting. Another thing I will tell you guys when it comes to dry fit shirts or 100% polyester material when it comes to pressing designs onto the shirts, and also not only pressing but your temperature. You do not want that temperature to be too heavy. Why? Because you could end up scorching the shirt, which will leave marks on the shirt. You know, when you are pressing your clothes and sometimes you burn your shirt, yeah, those type of things could happen. Guys, I must tell you, it's always good to service your machines. And what do I mean by that? Make sure you grease it up, oil it up, the same way you will take care of your body and your skin. You should do the same thing for your machine, because your machine brings you that extra income, or is what you do for your livelihood. So always make sure to service your machine. Just recently I've done so, but I need to do some more servicing on it, especially if the shock. One of the reasons you notice that it just came back up on its own before it got to the end, I need to do a little bit servicing on it. So now this is a extra large shirt. Going back to this again, for those persons, simple and easy, just a ruler to help you know exactly where you can put your design. For those professionals, you won't need it, but some professionals still use it. These shirts are going, I believe, to some persons who are in a tournament. So you want everyone to look the same and unique, so that when they do the team photo, one person's design wouldn't be down under their belly, and one person's design won't be all the way up to the top. I'm going to give this one another one. Now, sometimes you may have a design where the press and onto the shirt, the corners of that design is still curling up. In that case, I will always advise to use whatever Teflon sheets you have, because the Teflon sheet will keep the corner of those designs down flat onto your shirt. If those corners are bent back and you make the mistake of pressing the shirt when one of those corners are bent back, then of course the design is going to come out with with a bend in it on the corners. I'm going to give this one another one. What that is doing, I'm just going to keep on weeding. I have quite a few weeded out already, but I just want to keep going. The real question is this: can a person heat press 40 shirts in one day? Yeah, that's possible. It is possible. If you're dedicated to it, you can get it done in one day. Can you get 100 shirts done in one day? That is also possible. Some may say, well, if you have help, if you're doing it by yourself, is it possible? Yes, it is. I think I've done over 100 shirts in one day already. Would have been bulk orders, and then other persons who needed shirts done. So it is possible. What would be time consuming or what takes majority of the time is, let's say you're using heat transfer vinyl or the same print and cut process. Before you can get to the pressing, you have to cut out your vinyl or cut out your transfer design or whatever the case is. That part takes a little while. So I guess that is why persons now step up the game with their new Roland machines and the DTF machines and stuff, because it's much faster. All right. I like to stretch the design to make sure that it's not moving, you know? Getting pretty hot now. The press is starting to kick in. It's getting heated. All right, let's go. So far, we are going good. I'm wondering how many shares I've done so far. Wasn't even keeping count. Just going through the process. Just going through the process. What is the process right now? Read, press, repeat. Read, press, repeat. So guys, I have a fan here. Would love to turn on, but trust me, if we turn that on, it's going to blow a lot of wind through the microphone that I have on, and then it's going to, I believe, it's going to sound very bad. So I prefer to stay hot so you guys could hear everything. Feel free to ask questions, you know. If you have any, I'll definitely answer them. I believe in life, the only way you find out things or learn things is by reading, yes, but if you ask questions, it means that you're willing to learn. Oh, how could I forgot? Now that I remember, there are some methods where you can actually use, what is the correct name? I can't remember the correct name right now, but there is a transparent tack paper that you can actually use to transparent tack paper that you can actually use to squeegee over the design and read it up from off of that paper. That way, instead of manually reading like what I'm doing right now, you would have to do that. You can actually just squeegee it on because it has an adhesive stickiness towards it. And now thinking about it, I actually do have some of that in stock, but I'm already comfortable with the process that I am doing right now. So sometimes that sticky paper doesn't always pull up your design how you want it to pull up. All right, let's see how much shirts we have left to go. You see that we ran through a lot of shirts already. We're getting there. We're getting there faster. I might actually stay on the live for all 40 shirts. Let's see how far we can get. So see all the adjustments I'm doing right now with my hand. If I actually use that sticky paper that I was mentioning, then I would have to do none of that. It would just be a matter of putting it over there and pressing. Let me see if I can find some of it. If I can, that process requires me to look for it. All right, so I found one of them. Let's see if it's actually going to work. As I mentioned to you, sometimes the stickiness or the adhesiveness on these don't always work how you want them to. So what does that mean? With the EcoMist adhesive spray, I use it for sublimation because it keeps, instead of using heat tape, that adhesive EcoMist adhesive spray, it keeps my design stuck down to the shirt so that when we are finished sublimating, it doesn't move. Um, the heat tape, heat tape can also work. What I find with the heat tape though is that the heat tape leaves stains, especially when it starts to get old. The heat tape will leave a lot of stains. So for those who don't know what the EcoMist adhesive spray is, I can show you here. This here is the EcoMist adhesive spray, fast track, temporary or permanent bond, palette embroidery, adhesive, pressure sensitive, will not transfer. Yeah, so I like this. So that is something that you should have in your artillery if you are actually doing shirts, whether it be sublimating, that will work wonders for you. And it also works on your cutting mat. So when I started the video before, I was expressing to you guys that my mat was in a terrible state, and it still is in a terrible state. But what I did was I scrubbed it. You use some squeezy and a scrubber, and you scrub your mat, your cutting mat. And when you're finished, put it outside to dry, and then use some of that same Eco Mist. Once you do so, you spray this onto your mat, and then your mat becomes sticky again. So why waste money purchasing 4 and 5 mats when you can simply just clean your mat once the mat is in good condition, clean your mat, and then go again. So we're going to try this here shortly, and we're going to see how this works. I have a feeling that it's not going to pull up my design. I had a lot of them, and when the first time I start using them, I noticed that sometimes the design will come up, sometimes it wouldn't come up. It gives a lot of trouble, so I tend not to waste time with it. So let's see how it works. Matter of fact, let's move the shirt and let's put it here on the heat press, which is here. Yeah. Now it's clear that the design is a little bit bigger than this. I need to get my squeegee. So let's put a pause on that and continue doing the shirt. I'm going to get my squeegee when I'm finished this one, and we're going to try it and see how it works. 4 inches, 3 to 4 inches down from the neck of the shirt. All right, let's get that squeegee. Let's see what we can do. All right, so we have our squeegee. I'm going to hit this shirt again. Some shirts I do twice, some I will do once. It depends on the pressure, depends when it comes up, when you look at it, how it looks, how it feels, security. So I'll go ahead and hit that 2 times. So if I do each shirt twice, let's do some math here. If it's 40 shirts, if I'm pressing 40 shirts and each press is 1, then if I do it twice, technically that is like pressing 80 shirts. All right, so let's try this here. We have our design. We have our transparent paper. Stickiness, we have to peel off the backing off of it. All right. And this is it here. The back of it is sticky. And what I'm going to do is just to rest it over here. And I'm going to use my squeegee. And right there and then, I believe the heat is helping it a bit. But take a look at this. So I'm reading it up, and guess what is coming up? Nothing. Nothing is coming up. Let's try it again. Let's try it on something much harder. So I'm going to put it there. Give it a nice, firm squeegee. All right. Now let's see if that helps. It does a little bit. All right, let's pull, let's pull, let's pull. But you see, it's only pulling up certain areas. So in that case, this is not something that I will consistently use because it doesn't give me the quick effect of removing that material from the back of the paper. So I rather just come, use my hand, which is much faster. And don't get me wrong, there are some designs that will come off really, really well with it. But I find lately it's very difficult for some of the papers that I'm using. let's get a shirt. Let's use this again. Use this at various times. And to be honest with you guys, this ruler here, this will be the second time I'm using this ruler since I purchased it. And the first time I used it was, I think, last week. And the second time was today. And I purchased this ruler about 3 years ago. I did not even remember that I had it. That's the honest truth. Sometimes you purchase stock and you don't even remember you have certain things until you start to do a full cleanup to make sure that everything is good and you have all the equipment you need. Then you realize, hey, you had this so many years now. Now, as I mentioned before, I'm going to use this paper here only because I noticed that the corners of my design, they're starting to crimple up. And I don't want a case where I press my design and the corner of those designs are still flickering up in the air. So to save myself from headache, I will give it a quick tap and then give it the full press. All right, so we're moving along swiftly and I'm actually soon finished. This is faster than I thought. Based on looking at my camera, you can see that I was on live for about 90 minutes. I think I mentioned within 2 hours it could be finished. I think I did say so. I'm gonna put myself in that test and see. And guys, after doing shirts like this with this heat, you have to cool down your body. Like I'm here now and trust me, it is hot. And I must also say to you guys, if you're interested in seeing more of these type of videos, this is actually my first live on YouTube, to be honest. I would go live on Instagram and Facebook. Sometimes I haven't in a long time, but this is actually my first time going live on YouTube. I want to get back into creating more videos on my channel, so that those persons who don't understand the process or who are now getting into the whole process of printing, t-shirt printing, sticker, printing, etc. They can have a small YouTube channel to go to. It's not, my channel is not as big as others, but what I'll say is that everyone explains things differently. And if it's one thing I can tell you is that I enjoy going through the process of step by step, of course. I don't like to rush the videos. I know some persons say you talk a lot in the videos, but I rather not rush the process because there's someone out there who's watching that video and saying, "Gosh, why did he go so fast there? What did he do there? How did he get this set in?" You know, everyone is not on the same level in life, so I prefer to take my time and go through a video, explain as much as possible in that video, and explain how I got from this point to that point and how I got this outcome. That way, it gives you guys a better understanding. So I'm going to make it my mission to, when I have some nice projects to do, meaning shirts or tumblers whatsoever, I'm going to try to go live on YouTube more often. And of course, I'm going to be producing more of my videos so you guys can watch shorter content, probably 10 to 12 minutes if possible. To play some music, guys, some nice, relaxing music. But I'm not sure I can, so that next time I'll know exactly what's going on. So we have 1, 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. We have about time now. We are racing against the clock. Oops. All right, now we're at a smaller shirt. It's a very much smaller shirt, which means we're down to the final few. Oops. I can see the smoke, the steam coming from that shirt. We're down to the last few. I can feel it. I can see it. We're bringing it home. So I'm just deciding to see how much it'll weed out here quickly. I'm gonna do another shirt. Another two. All right, here we go. All right. Let's give another press. I think the Wi-Fi is now giving some trouble. Let's make sure that we're still connected. But just remember, guys, that everybody have their own way of doing t-shirts. Some may use different machinery. Some may use an older process. Some may use a newer process. Some may be fast. Some may be slow. I think what matters at the end of the day is quality. Yes, you want to be able to get back the stuff to your customer in a timely fashion, but you want to make sure that your work is presented with great quality. You don't want to rush it, make mistakes, do things wrong, and then the customer is asking you to redo them again. Yeah. We are soon finished. We are soon finished. Actually, guys, now remember, when I'm finished here, I actually have to, when I finish this, I have to go right into sublimate some key rings. I have some key rings I have to sublimate right after this, but I wouldn't take you guys on that journey. It'd be too much for me right now. So as soon as I'm finished here with these shirts, I'm going to go right into printing those designs for or pictures, as I say, for those key rings, and I'm going to sublimate those key rings. And I use 380 Fahrenheit for about 60 seconds for those key rings. Two-sided, some one-sided, yeah. Guess what? Guess what? Guess what? So I have one more design to read. Only one more design to read. But still a couple shirts to press. But one more design. So let's recap as we start to wind down in this video. What was the purpose of this video? Well, to be honest with you guys, I had some shirts to do today. I have been lacking on my videos on the channel, and there really isn't any excuse. All I can say is that life got in the way, but that's still no excuse. So I decided to share this short little journey here with you guys as I am heat pressing 40 t-shirts today, and I would have went through the process, or I decided, you know what, it would be great to show those who want to watch live, or those who may watch later on, or maybe some people may never watch it. That is totally okay. But the whole aim was to come to you guys and show you what's going on. I'm still here. I'm still doing videos, getting everything together. And most of all, I know that back in the past and even now, I'm seeing online that there are some persons who are in different group chats and stuff who are having difficulties with the print and cut process, especially when it comes to the silhouette cameo. And I just said to myself, it would be nice to come online, come live, and show you guys that process. Um, what I didn't even mention, which is very, very important there, what I did not mention, which I can now, is normally when persons are doing the print and cut process, they probably will use more so of the 8.5 by 11 paper. In this video, I was mainly using 11 by 17 paper. Okay, 11 by 17, yes, big. And you can use 13 by 19. You can print and cut any size. It all depends on the size of your cutting machine and printer. So in the past, I've done 11 by 17, I've done 13 by 19, I think. In the past, it's all about how large your printer can print first, and then your cutting machine. So like with my Silhouette Cameo, there's a Silhouette Cameo 4, and I think the width is about 12 inches. So of course, I'm limited there. But I also have a Pro, and with the Pro is 24 inches. So based on my designs, 1, 2, 3, should be only 4 shirts left. 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 4 shirts left to press. And this table here comes in handy so well. We're soon finished, guys. Internet starting to get some trouble. As soon as the rain falls, internet starts to act up. Hopefully it's looking pretty rainy, pretty good. So for these last two shirts, I am going to use the ruler in which I started with. Same size shirts, but just decided I didn't want to use it. For those who don't know, once again, you put the scoop around the collar of the shirt. It will give you exactly the center of the shirt. It will also tell you where about 4 inches down from the neck where you should put your design. Actually, three shirts. Why am I seeing three designs? Did I do an extra one? I'm noticing that on my table here I have, oh yeah, it's actually three. Look how I almost tricked myself. So once you have your ruler in there, you put your color just off of the mat. Not off of the mat, guys, but off of the heat press. And you press. Two more left. And give that one another press. Second last shirt. All right, good. And I can see some of the corners coming up for this particular design. And I'm close to the end, so I'm not interested in taking any risks right now. So what I do, put that paper over it, press my design, then we go again. All right, guys, final shirt. Final shirt. Good. This is our final shirt. And that means it will make 40 shirts. And I think I've done that within an hour and some, which would have included the whole process of printing and cutting. But I would have had a head start because earlier this morning I would have gotten up and started to do the other printouts and stuff. And there you go, 40 shirts. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to adjust my temperature to 380 Fahrenheit because, as I mentioned, I'm going to do some keyrings now, but not on the live. I'm just going to adjust that so my heat press could go up to the correct temperature by the time I'm ready for that. And guys, just want to say thank you so much for watching this Could be say boring live video today, just of me printing, cutting on the Cameo and heat pressing. For those who are in the printing industry, you probably will get a value from the video because you will understand exactly what I'm doing, to share tips, comments, etc. But thanks to you guys for who stuck on, who will watch later. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. We're going to be doing more videos. We're going to be bringing back the channel to where it was, educating you guys more, sharing tutorials, and more knowledge. And before I go, you can always check me on Instagram and Facebook for those who want to connect with me to ask personal questions. All of my information is down in the description, but you can go to my Instagram channel, AT Prints or Alan21 Thompson. You'll find me on Instagram and Facebook. I'll just go ahead and show you guys the shirts itself so you can see. So give me a second. Let me just readjust the camera so you guys can actually see what is going on here. Yeah. All right, good. So you guys should be able to see exactly what's going on here when it comes to the shirts. As you can see, all these shirts here different. And what I'm gonna do is actually put the correct sizes together. So it's supposed to be 10 at each size. There'll be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, this is a medium. 10 small. So we have 10 small. Yep, 10 small. Just gonna go through. This is mediums, the large, 2 large, 3, 4, that's 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Perfect. That's 10 large. I'll take this small now. Put this small on top there. Geo. Alright guys, so I want to thank you so much for watching once again. And remember, we do make your prints and fashion come alive. So you can check me out on Instagram, Facebook, hit me up here on YouTube if you need to, any questions, etc. And they definitely will get back to you guys. So have a great day. Thank you so much and have a wonderful week ahead.